Before I found Claude Code, this is what a typical lead generation setup looked like for a client, especially for someone doing B2B sales or consulting outreach. You'll pay for Apollo or hire someone to scrape LinkedIn manually. Then, you'll export a spreadsheet and hand it over to someone to research each person manually. Finally, you will also need a copywriter to write 50 slightly different cold emails. The whole workflow could take a week, and that's before you even send a single message. Today, I'm going to show you how to build the core of that system yourself using Claude Code with about 20 to 30 minutes of setup. No coding required. Here's what the system does in plain English. Step 1, we tell Claude who we want to reach. We provide the job title, industry, location, whatever that fits your target. It builds a script to pull that list from the internet or from a directory. Step 2, Claude Code enriches each lead. It visits their LinkedIn or website to pull relevant context such as recent posts, company focus, or current roles. Step 3, for each lead, it writes a personalized outreach email that references something specific about that person. So the final output would be a spreadsheet with names, contact info, and ready to send emails. And all you have to do is review, adjust, and send it out. So that's the system. Let's go ahead and build it. Alright, so what you'll need first is obviously Claude Code. You can either run this on your computer's terminal or you can download the Claude desktop app and use it that way. The next thing that you'll need is Firecrawl. Firecrawl is what will do the actual web scraping, and as you can see here, it shows you ways it can help you search, scrape, and interact with the web at scale. It cleans up messy HTML, so Claude only has to read the useful stuff. It dramatically cuts down on token costs. So for example, you could search for a website, so you can say something like what they have here, top restaurants in San Francisco. You can scrape it also, so you can include a website and it will pull all the information that you need. There's also a map feature and also a crawl feature. And it explains to you here at the top in the pop-up that shows up what exactly it can do. In terms of pricing, so we can see here what it is. For a free plan, you get 1,000 credits a month, which is pretty nice, and you can scrape 1,000 pages. And then there's also a hobby plan, which is $16 monthly for an annual plan, standard, and also growth. So I'm going to go ahead and sign up right now. Alright, so once you sign in, this is what it looks like. It does have a lot going on, but don't worry, we're only going to use a part of this today. I'll come back to this later, but for now I'm going to go back into Claude Code. So I already have Claude Code connected to a folder on my computer, and this is just to make sure that any files that it generates all go to the same location. Firecrawl is not in the default list for Browse Connector, so you're going to have to add it as a custom connector right here. So as you can see here, this pop-up is asking for a name and a remote MCP server URL. So I'm just going to type Firecrawl. And for the remote MCP server URL, you can go to Firecrawl's documentation right here, and I'll link this below in the description. And here you'll see it says, gives you instruction on how to run on Claude Code. It provides you a remote hosted URL, and it says here, here's the URL that you can use. So I'm going to copy and paste this URL, and then I'm going to go to an empty document right here and paste it. Now you'll notice that here it's saying that you need to enter your API key. So you're going to go back to the dashboard for Firecrawl and copy that API key and then update your link right here. So this is what you're going to update. And now you're going to go ahead and copy this URL and paste it right here and press add. Alright, so now that we did that, let's go back to Claude Code and see if this actually works. We're going to first ask Claude Code to test its connection to Firecrawl. Please test if you are connected to Firecrawl. Alright, perfect. So it's telling me that Firecrawl is connected and working. So we can go ahead and start with our first prompt. The first prompt we're going to use is this one right here. Use Firecrawl to find 20 HR directors at companies with 50 to 500 employees in Austin, Texas. Search LinkedIn and business directories for each lead. Collect full name, job title, company name, company website, and LinkedIn URL if available. Save this all to a CSV file called leads.csv. Now, obviously, this is a sample prompt, so update it to your liking and what you need. So for example, if you're looking for 50 HVAC companies in, Atlanta, Georgia, something like that, go ahead and add that in. And now we'll let Claude do its work. And I didn't mention this earlier, but if this is your first time using Claude, you'll notice pop-ups like this throughout your session. That's fine. That's just Claude asking you for permission to run different tasks. So I usually just select always allow in this project, and you just have to keep selecting that throughout your session. All right, so as you can see here, Claude Code is still working, but I wanted to show some of the updates on what work it has been doing. Number one, it says I'll run multiple searches in parallel across LinkedIn, business directories, and people search sites to gather 20 leads. Good start. I have several leads already. Let me run more targeted searches and process the large result files in parallel. So that's one thing cool about Claude. You can see what it's doing real time. All right, so it was taking a while to generate 20 leads, so I asked it to stop at 15 so that we can get the video moving. As you can see here, it has generated a list of people for me that I can reach out to that fit the criteria that I asked for in my previous prompt. It also provided me some notes right here about who had LinkedIn URLs and who did not. For those that did not have LinkedIn URLs, it pointed me to a company website instead. It also provided some specific details such as retirement on certain people. And now to double check whether the CSV file was made, so I'm going to go ahead and go to the folder that I created. And yes, I can see it right here. So that spreadsheet was created, and this is nice because I can email that out to someone else to take over or just keep it on my computer. And it was named leads.csv just like I requested. And when I open it up, it looks like this, which is pretty nice. Alright, so now let's go back into Claude Code. This next thing we're going to do is use this prompt right here. Read leads.csv for each lead that has a LinkedIn URL, visit their profile using Firecrawl, and find the most recent post or activity. Add 2 columns to the CSV, recent_topic, which would be a 5 to 10 word summary of what they've been posting about, and enrichment_note, which is 1 sentence I could reference in an outreach email. Save this as leads_enrich.csv. If LinkedIn is blocked, and I meant to say blocked right here, switch to using company websites instead. Okay, so let's go ahead and press enter. Now, actually, one thing I do want to do, I want to make sure it's coming out how I would like it to be. So I'm just going to say, do this for the first 5 leads. So that way it's turning out to be the results that I want, and you're not simply blowing through tokens. And I recommend that for you also. Before you have like 100 list of leads that you're looking for, I recommend before you go all out to start with just 5 and then 10 and stuff like that. So for the sake of this demo, I'm just going to do the 5 leads right here. All right, so it is done right now. Unfortunately, LinkedIn is fully blocked by Firecrawl. So what Claude Code did was switch to company websites as planned. And as you can see here, it provided some key findings per lead. For example, with the first lead, the company just launched an AI compliance tool. The second lead, studio is celebrating 15 plus years, recently acquired a Colombian studio and actively staffing. But you'll also notice that some of them might say something like no public activity, and that's normal because that person just doesn't post much probably. So in that case, in your outreach email, it's going to be more basic. And Claude Code's not going to be 100% perfect. It's going to make mistakes. It might not pull up all 20 leads that you asked for, or maybe there might be some empty rows. So in that case, you'll just follow up with a prompt saying like, hey, row 2 for this lead is missing, something like that. Please fix that. And now we're going to use this third prompt right here to write our outreach email. Read leads_enrich.csv for each lead. Write a short, cold outreach email. Number 1, open with a specific reference to their recent topic or enrichment note, if any. Number 2, introduce me as, and insert your name right here, who helps mid-sized companies streamline HR operations using AI tools. Again, you're going to update this prompt with your specific information. Number 3, end with 1 low commitment ask, a 15-minute call or a reply to learn more. Add the email as a new column called draft_email and save it as leads_final.csv. One thing I do want to point out is notice how each prompt stack on top of each other. And that's part of organizing your documents really well to find what you need. So let's go ahead and press enter. All right, so Claude Code is done. It has created a leads_final CSV file for me. One thing I do want to point out, remember how with the previous prompt, I only asked Claude Code to add personalized hooks for the first 5. Because of that, it was only able to provide personalized information for the first 5 emails that it drafted in this prompt. So just make sure your numbers are always matching with all the prompts. If you have 20 leads, make sure that you're using 20, 20, 20 for all the prompts that you have. All right, so let's see the documents that it created for me. As you can see here, it has a leads.csv, which has all the contact information for each lead. We have leads_enrich, which we only did for the first 5 in this demo. that provided specific updates on them. And finally, leads_final takes everything together and puts them into one spreadsheet that includes the full name, job title, company name, company website, LinkedIn URL, recent topics, enrichment note, and the draft email. Alright, so the last thing you want to do is create something called a skill file. This is basically just instructions that you can provide to Claude again without having to copy and paste instructions over and over. So what I did was I just said I would like to use all of this again. Please save this as a skill file for future reference. So as you can see here, the skill file has been packaged. It's saying that it has saved it as lead gen HR skill, and it was saved into my lead generation folder on my desktop. Claude also mentioned that it was installed and active in my Claude skills library, so I can invoke it immediately for any future use by describing what I want. And Claude is saying to reuse it again, just say something along the lines of, find 20 HR directors at 50 to 500 employee companies in Dallas. The skill will kick in automatically and run the full pipeline. Alright, so now for some pointers and tips that I myself learned throughout this process. As you can see, Claude Code is good at this, but definitely not 100% perfect. This is still not going to replace you reviewing it and looking through all the leads and making sure they're your target customers. You'll also want to make sure to check the enrichment notes and read every single email. A bad personalization is going to be worse than no personalization. If you don't think you're going to review well, just skip the personalization part and just ask for the cold outreach emails. If you reference something wrong, it's going to undermine the whole email to the lead that you want. Number 2 is LinkedIn scraping. As you can see, Firecrawl was not able to access LinkedIn information, unfortunately. I looked into it a little bit more and it looks like LinkedIn prohibits automatic scrapping. I might be wrong though, so if you know of a tool that can do that, feel free to comment below. Which goes to my next point, which is platform rules. Make sure to check the terms and service for any website that you're scraping. And finally, once you've dialed in on the prompts that you like for the lead generation system that you have, make sure to save them as a Claude Code skill like how we did. This ensures you can trigger the whole workflow with a single command the next time you need it. That's how this can go from a one-time build to a repeatable system. And that's all for today. We were able to scrape a targeted list, enrich it with real context, draft personalized outreach emails all in Claude Code. If you found this video helpful, please subscribe to my channel. I post weekly videos on AI tools and how to use them. See you in the next one.